Did you bring us here to die? A desert? We want food. We want water. There is none. What did you think would happen here, Moses? What's the plan? Why did we leave Egypt? The people are right. This is a bad place. If we're all going to die, then what was the point? Wait a second now. I'm thinking like them. All this complaining is getting to me. That and the heat. The scarcity of food. The absence of water. Maybe the people are right. I should have stayed out of this. Take the staff and assemble the congregation, you and Aaron your brother, and speak to the rock before their eyes in order that it give of its waters. And you will bring out its water from the rock and give the congregation and its cattle drink. Aaron, let's move quickly. Let's get this done so the people will stop complaining. But I know they never will. They are a difficult bunch, always doing things that shouldn't be done. We're here at the rock. Hey, Moses, do you want us all to die? Moses, do something. Israel's great leader. He took us from slavery to death. It's at a time like this when your skin isn't as thick as it should be. Moses picks up his staff and strikes the rock hard. Water surges forth. The people are quiet, finally. But God, looking down at the scene, is displeased, very displeased. But why? Why should God tell him to take his staff if he wasn't supposed to use it? Was God setting up Moses to fail? In a previous episode, Moses fears the people will stone him to death. God tells Moses to take his staff and strike the rock. This is the same staff that was thrown to the ground at the burning bush and turned into a snake. Everyone remembers how the Bible feels about snakes. Snakes are used to punish people in the camp. In fact, this is exactly what happens after Moses strikes the rock and produces water the first time. Snakes are also the cause of Adam and Eve's removal from the Garden of Eden. The snake was their fall from grace. Is that why Moses is told to take the staff that turns into a snake when he won't be required to use it? So he struck the rock. Big deal. But then God says it is a big deal, a very big deal, because you didn't believe in me to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel. And then what God says next is the game changer. Therefore, you will not bring this nation into the land that I gave them. Is this even accurate? Moses and Aaron didn't sanctify God? The next verse seems to provide an answer to this very question. These are the waters of Meribah, where the children of Israel fought with God, and he was sanctified in them. God says he didn't sanctify him, and then the next verse says the opposite. Didn't Moses say, "Are we to bring water for you from this rock?" No one can produce water from a rock. Clearly, this is a sanctification of God's name and shows God's ubiquitous power and control over nature. Why is Moses accused of not sanctifying God in this act? What's the problem here? Why is this act so disproportionately punished? Lastly, if God confirms in the very next verse that he was sanctified, what is this all about? But if you look carefully at the verse, you will notice something that has been overlooked. Were you taught that Moses was punished for striking the rock? God doesn't say that. He says, "You didn't believe in me to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel." The text is saying that the punishment is for something else. When Aaron is about to die, God tells Moses it's, quote, "because you rebelled against my word at the waters of Meribah." We thought it was because Moses, not Aaron, struck the rock. Then we thought it was because both brothers didn't sanctify God's name. Now we have another reason, that they rebelled against my word. A few chapters later, the punishment is again cited, when you rebelled against my word in the Zin desert. Why did God punish Moses so severely? I think there are three possible explanations. Let's test them one by one. The first case is for hitting the rock instead of speaking to it. Would God have denied Moses and Aaron entry into the land for this? It's possible. God exacted a heavy punishment on Adam and Eve for not listening to him. They were evicted from the Garden of Eden for not listening. It's not inconceivable that Moses and Aaron be punished severely for this, but it seems unlikely. If it seems to the casual reader of the Bible that it wasn't that big a deal, after all, it's a rock, it can take a hit from a senior citizen, then it probably wasn't that big a deal. There's also a difference between Adam and Eve doing exactly what God commanded them not to do, and Moses hitting the rock instead of talking to it, which isn't a case of disobeying God, but his having made a procedural error. In the temple service, someone who commits a procedural error can receive the death penalty, but again, if it doesn't look like a crime, it probably isn't. One can make the case for Moses being punished for striking the rock, but it's a weak case. Additionally, why should Aaron also be punished if this is so? He didn't strike the rock. The second case involves the use of language. Ibn Ezra cites Moses' choice of words. Moses and Aaron assembled the people in front of the rock and said to them, "Listen, you rebels." Is it bad that Moses referred to the people as such? It shows Moses in need of a power boost. On the one hand, the people are aggressive and looking for a fight when they approach him. When he and Aaron beseech God to help quench the national thirst, they both fling themselves on their faces. The reader can feel their exasperation with the constant complaining and their desperation to find a solution. Forgotten in this chapter is another issue on Moses and Aaron's minds that needs to be considered. One can easily miss this part of the chapter since it's given a parenthetical mention in the back end of the first verse of the chapter. They're both in mourning. Miriam has died. Can we better understand Moses and Aaron's inexact application of God's command with this in mind? Definitely. Ancient Jewish tradition believes the reason for the lack of water was that Miriam's well dried up instantly upon her passing. If you accept this theory, then it's conceivable that 3 or 4 days later, the nation would have had existential concerns about the lack of water and the need for a new water source. For the two brothers, this means the death of their beloved sister was an open wound. To sum up, while Moses and Aaron are in mourning, the nation picks a fight with them, accusing them of misleading everyone, endangering, and starving them. Wow, that's heavy. One can understand why Moses was angry, so angry that he struck the rock and called the people rebels, or troublemakers. This is a stronger case than striking the rock because God names the place Meribah, a form of the word rebel that Moses had used. When God tells Moses to prepare for Aaron's death, the stated reason for his being barred from the promised land is because you rebelled against me. God uses Moses' own word against him. He does it again a few chapters later, when you rebelled against my word in the Zin desert. However, would God really deny Moses' entry into Israel over calling the people rebels? He could have called them a lot worse. When you consider that God contemplates wiping this same people out every couple of pages in the desert narrative, can we really agree with Moses being so harshly punished for his minor insult of the nation? Add in the belligerent people being in mourning and God continuously becoming murderous with the people, and it's hard to imagine God punishing Moses for name-calling. It certainly didn't please God, but it's difficult to rationalize Moses losing the rights to the promised land over this. It's also unclear in this interpretation what Moses and Aaron did to cause God to tell them they didn't sanctify him. Then why was Moses prevented from entering the promised land? Let's look at the third case. This case focuses on language. There's something else overlooked in the verse. Moses says to the people, "Are we to bring water for you from this rock?" God must have been sitting above listening and saying, "We, Moses? Don't you mean, is God to bring water from this rock?" This is one of God's buttons. It's clear from the Bible that if one wishes to make God irate, just take credit for his works. Another biblical character suffered an incredible change of fate due to his non-recognition of God's role in his communications to him. Which character would that be? Joseph. Joseph mishandled the dreams God gave him, taunting his brothers with his dreams, and would stay punished as a slave until he finally acknowledged God's role in the dreams. Similar to the case of Moses, Joseph, who was in Israel at the time of his transgression, was immediately evicted from the promised land. Moses being told he can't enter the land for his sin is consistent with Joseph's punishment. Not attributing a miracle to God is a big blunder, no matter who does it. Deep down, readers likely all want God to forgive Moses, but it's not meant to be. Once Moses takes credit for the act, God has no choice. There's a reason why he can't forgive someone for stepping on his toes. It's not only a matter of credibility, but even deeper, it's a matter of continuity. Sure, God can allow this one slip and give Moses credit, but then how does the nation continue in Judaism as opposed to Mosesism? Let's go with Mosesism. I'm glad that didn't catch on. From this perspective, God has little choice but to tell Moses that the transition of power to the next generation must happen fairly soon. "You are my servant, Moses. You're not calling the shots." When God says that he wasn't sanctified, this fits more smoothly into interpreting why God felt that way. Moses and Aaron usurped his power. They took credit. How could God continue to shepherd the people throughout history if they felt that Moses was the one performing the miracles? I think this is the strongest explanation. Despite the severity of his punishment, Moses belonged with his people, those he led, and that's where he remains. Is it sad? Sure. Is it unfortunate? Yes. But how could it be otherwise? There's one more heavy question that might rattle some cages, but it needs examining. Did God set up Moses to fail? The answer seems to be that he did. Think about it. If Moses uttered the contentious statement claiming responsibility, even though he said we, including Aaron in the act, Aaron can't be faulted for this. For this, Aaron gets his passport to cross into Israel revoked. But he's the victim of collateral damage. For Moses, who was at a low, in mourning, bombarded by the insensitive people, it's the perfect time for him to falter. And he does. God tells him to take the staff, knowing he'll make a mistake. The reason is clear. This is the precise time for God to find, quote-unquote, fault with Moses and deny him entry to Israel, because he can't let the leader of a people who all died in the desert enter the land. That wouldn't be right. Had God punished Aaron for participating in the sin of the golden calf, we'd understand. He wasn't. Instead, he and Moses are given maximum sentences for softball, quote-unquote, crimes God found to deny them because they had to go down with their ship. The staff, or should we say the snake, does Moses in, just like Adam and Eve. Thanks for watching the Overlooked Bible.